Today we're going to have another guest speaker from National Young University. And before that, let's have some fun with your IRS. Okay, so take out your IRS, and the first question is, what is not a common feature of generic drugs? Does anybody not know what generic drugs are? What generic drug is? No? Generic drug is a drug product that has the same function, same ingredients, and same strength as a drug that has a brand name. But it has a different name. Okay. So choose your answer. The correct answer is 5. India is not a country with the largest generic industry. Alright, so later on we'll be explaining this. Alright, second question. In your country, most of the drugs are dispensed 1 by physicians who treat you, or 2 by pharmacists against physician's prescription, or 3 at any point of sale with or without prescription. Of what? So yeah, okay. So the majority of the people have pharmacists. Next question. Do you think the prices of the drugs should be regulated by the government or be determined by the market competition? Number 3. Okay. Next question. What will you do if you get sick? 1. Go see a doctor and finish all the prescribed pills. Or 2. Go see a doctor but stop taking medicines so you feel better. 3. Buy some patent medicine without doctor's prescription. Or 4. Just get a meal rest. Okay, so most of the people would prefer to go see a doctor. Last one. How often do you go to a pharmacy for fun? For example, Watson's, CVS, PH.D, or anything else, etc. Okay, number 1. So 1 to 2 times per month. That's okay. Okay, so that's all for the question of the week. And let's welcome Professor黃文鴻.
Thank you for the kind introduction. I will start with the 5 questions, comment on your responses. But before I speak, maybe it's better for me to introduce myself. It's really very nice to be here after nearly 40 years. When I was a freshman and a sophomore, we spent 2 years in this campus before we studied most of the time under the College of Medicine. I actually graduated from the pharmacy school in 1972. That revealed how old I am. I probably is the first pharmacy graduate went into graduate school, not only in Taiwan or in the United States, who had not entered into the laboratory research. At that time, most of pharmacy graduates, when they went pursue for graduate studies, usually go into the laboratory research works, such like pharmaceutical chemistries, like pharmacognosy, like botanical pharmacy, or even like biochemistry, etc. My graduate training dealing with the social and administrative pharmacy. In the early days, it's called pharmacy administration. Later, it was renamed as the social and administrative pharmacy. Until today, the more popular name of that is the pharmacoeconomics or the pharmacoepidemiology. This is now the most popular discipline, especially in the United States. So I was the first generation of this discipline, nearly 35 years ago. Because I received the government scholarship, so I returned to Taiwan in 1979 after I complete my PhD program at the University of Minnesota. My career started with the public service, especially in the first couple of years in the subsidiaries of the Department of Health. So as you can see from here, I served as a senior officials in the Department of Health, starting from the position, the mid-level position of senior, become the Deputy Director General and Director General of the Pharmaceutical Affairs Bureau. Before I joined the National HUANG University in 1994, my last 5 years with the Department of Health, serving as the Director General of the National Laboratories of Food and Drugs. These two agencies, the Bureau of Pharmaceutical Affairs and the National Laboratories of Food and Drugs, have been reorganized, integrated into what you call today as TFDA, Taiwan Food and Drug Administrations. So my public service career is substantially equivalent with the Director General of the TFDA. I left the public service in 1994, and this will be my 17th years in the National HUANG University. As you can see from information, I serve as the full-time faculty in the field of Institute of Health and Welfare Policy. My specialization partly started with I was the architect of Taiwan's drug regulatory reforms, including the good manufacturing practices and the clinical trial regulations. I was fortunately involved substantially to the contribution of Taiwan's national health insurance, especially in the pharmaceutical benefit and reimbursement system. In the professional society, I served for 3 terms as the president of Taiwan's Pharmaceutical Society, and because my previous working relationship at the Department of Health, so I served several times as the advisor to the Taiwan's Department of Health, and for some specific task force, such like a chairman of the over-the-counter drug committee and the chairman of the pharmacy services quality committee. My research area dealing with the health policy evaluation, pharmaceutical pricing and reimbursement in health insurance, health technology assessment. I also involved substantially with the Ministry of Economic Affairs in reviewing the government sponsorship or subsidization to the research and development project of the industry. Therefore, I have acquired certain knowledges about the development strategy in healthcare industry. That was my background. Before my introduction, let me first start with the question that you answered earlier. I was particularly interested in one of the questions, and the question asked, what do you believe that a drug price should be? I believe that you noticed that nearly 3/4 of you believe that it should be regulated by the government, right? In the whole healthcare segment, in the law or even in the tradition, it's been classified as a non-profit area. Therefore, if you are a medical doctor or if you are a superintendent of hospitals, you will never speak loudly how much profit you are making this year, what increase of this year's comparing to the same period of last year. You only emphasize how efficient your hospital operations are. The clinic or medical visit for a medical doctor is not a business. Now, business is for making money. Therefore, the health care services in this country and for more than 100 years tradition is not a profit. But for drugs, in the whole health care services for drugs, nobody would say, I started a pharmaceutical company just purely because I want to do the charity to the public. So pharmaceutical industry is a profit-driven industry. It's an economic industry. However, in the healthcare segment, especially under the umbrella of national health insurance programs, these drugs, it's no wonder that you believe that drug price should be regulated by the government. But do you believe that Coca-Cola like this, any soft drink, their price should be regulated by the government? I believe nearly 100% of you will say no. Do you believe that Hamburg or some Hamburg should be regulated by the government? I believe the answer is no. So it is interesting to know that even the university student in this classroom believe that 3/4 of them believe that drug price should be regulated by the government. In certain sense, it's okay, especially in the national health insurance program. But do you believe that in over-the-counter, I mean the non-prescribed medicines in the drugstore or pharmacy, do you believe that government should intervene to set a price? I believe you will say not necessarily. The second is, when you reach the medical doctor, how are you going to take the medication or medicines? Most of you answered you will take the drug accordingly with the instruction and prescription of the doctors and complete all the medications. But let me make a suggestion. When you have the occasion to visit, especially your grandfather or grandmother, they are older than I am now, but most of the elderly people, they may have the chronic disease such as hypertension, such like diabetes. Next time when you see them, check with them how many medicines they have at hand or in the cabinet. I believe that you can see they keep a substantial quantity of unused medicines. Those medicines actually were prescribed by the doctor and dispensed by the pharmacist. People looking into the medical service, actually when you waiting in a long line, see your doctor, he spend maybe 3 minutes or 5 minutes to you and wrote down a prescription, then you take all those medicine, dispense medicine from the pharmacy. That is not the end of the treatment. It is actually the beginning of the treatment. Whether you will become healthy depends on whether the medicine doctor prescribe and the pharmacist dispense, you will taking as the instruction by the doctor and pharmacist. But most of the time, I believe we understand. We call it compliance. Medication actually is not very good, not only in Taiwan but in most of the countries. Okay, this is my comment to your 5 questions responses. I was looking at the position of the pharmaceuticals in the healthcare, pharmaceutical industry and the international health. Maybe some international health issues. Under the World Health Organization, this organization has been promoting so-called essential drug list, the fundamental drug required for providing health care. The pharmaceuticals constitute an essential element of health care and disease treatment. industry is a profit-driven industry. It is a profit-driven industry. The more money they make, the more satisfactory the shareholders or the investors, but not necessarily the public. Therefore, pharmaceuticals are also regarded as social good. What means social good? If a company developed a new drug that can treat the end-stage cancer patient, we call it terminal patient, and there's no substitute treatment for this, it can save lives, can lengthen the lives of people, especially when it is protected under the patent. Therefore, this company says, well, this drug will be priced as high as diamond or gold. It's legal. But do you believe that the public or the government will accept that they can price at whatever higher level they want? No way. Because life cannot be valued by money. You cannot blackmail people just because they are in the end stage of life, and you say you have to pay me $3 million, you are going to live. You have to pay me $3 million to buy this drug. The society will not accept such, whether you call it blackmail. Pharmaceuticals are regarded as social good. For this industry, the essence or the characteristics are intensive research and development, as well as for the intellectual property right protection. These are the core elements in pharmaceuticals innovation and the pharmaceutical industries. In a country like Taiwan, we have a national health insurance, which is premium based. In a case like Great Britain, the National Health Services, which actually was tax-based, whether in our system or in the British system, the government reimbursement influences the operation of healthcare market. Even when a national health insurance or services is not available, the cost of drugs has been a very sensitive issue everywhere. I always talk to my students that there are these three parts of drugs that are very relevant to the public. The first, of course, is the safety and efficacy of the drugs. The second part is so-called rational use of the drugs. The third part is the cost or the price of the drugs. I will give you the example for the first part. What means drug safety and efficacy? It's very specialized field. Not even medical doctor or pharmacist may not really aware of how a drug is being researched, developed, and reviewed and approved to the market. For rational drug use, a diabetic patient go to see the NTU hospitals. The same person going to the Type A Veteran General Hospital, do you really believe the doctor diagnose him and prescribe him the prescriptions? Do you believe the medication will be the same? Not necessary. Then which doctor's drug use is rational? So it is not only an arbitrary decision, but also it depends on the institutional culture, or depends on the clinical training and background of the medical doctors. The third factor, everyone understands how much it costs the drugs. We all have 10 fingers. This costs $8. That costs $6. That costs $5 a tablet. But can you differentiate which drug the quality is better? People usually believe the higher the price, the better the quality. Do you agree with this? The higher the price, the better the drug quality. You don't agree that. But when you're going to see the doctors, what brand of medicine you expect to receive? I believe that you expect to receive the original brand product. Generic drugs are available. So the cost of drug has been a very sensitive issue everywhere. Policy decision in achieving the balance between the industry goal and the social goal. Industry goal is development of the industry. Social goal is like in our national health insurance. You have to contain the expenditure of the drugs. Otherwise, the national health insurance will go bankrupt. So the balance between these two goals are very complicated and most of the time are very political. In the United Nations, there has been an international covenant on economic, social, and cultural rights. On the Article 12.1, it stated that the right of everyone to the enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health. What does it mean for right to health? It means availability, acceptability, accessibility, and quality. Availability means that service or the drug should be in sufficient quantity, acceptable both in terms of their usability and their appropriateness, taking into consideration of cultural and other factors. It should be effective and good quality. Talking to the cost or the price, it should be the lowest possible cost to facilitate the access. This is an example of today. Every year, actually, that this statistic probably was more than 10 years ago, that at least 1.7 million people die of tuberculosis, 2.6 million people die of HIV and AIDS. Even for malaria, 1.1 million, for diarrhea, 2.2 million, and for pneumonia, 3.9 million people die of those diseases. I will take you to have an understanding regarding what the pharmaceutical industry is about. This is from the Fortune Global 500 statistics based on the revenue of July 2009. The number one company, Johnson & Johnson, probably you understand that. In Mandarin, we call it 交生公司. The second, Pfizer. Third, GlaxoSmithKline, abbreviated as GSK, in Chinese called 葛兰素. Roche, Sanofi-Aventis, Novartis, AstraZeneca, Abbott, Merck, Weiss, Bristol-Myers Squibb, and Eli Lilly. You can see in the year of 2009, if you want to be listed as the top 12 companies, your annual revenue should be at least $20 billion. I want you to look at the last column, how many employees they have. For the number one company, Johnson & Johnson, with the annual sales revenue of $63 billion, more than $63 billion, their global employee numbers totally than 20,000 people. You may not be realized whether this figure is high or low. Let me ask you one question. You know a very well-established electronic company, Foxconn, Hushikang, or in Chinese we call Honghai. Do you know that how many employees this company, Honghai, has in China? The question is, understand my question, how many employees that Honghai have in China? I will not give you the answer. You know the answer, okay. Yes, 800,000 to 1 million. And look at Johnson & Johnson, they have only 120,000. That represent how productive the pharmaceutical industries are. Hong Hai has nearly 1 million employees, but Johnson & Johnson globally only has 118,000 employees. So this is a very high productive, in certain sense, it's a very high profit margin industry. Then those are the we call the big pharma. In every country, there are also companies who manufactured patent expired drugs. In the first question that our teaching assistant asking drugs. So these are the ranking of the top 10 global generics companies in the year 2008. Teva, an Israel company. It is a recent company, but it actually is a subsidiary of Novartis, the big pharma. Mylan, Watson, Ratio Pharma, startup, German companies, Hospira, Actavis, in Iceland, a population less than 500,000 population. They have one of the largest generic company in the world. Ranbaxy, Dr. Reddy, those are from India. I want to let you know that the Taiwanese scientists or entrepreneurs are quite significant in American generic industry. For example, the Teva, Ivex, two of the three founders actually are from Taiwan, the graduate of this university. One of the daddy entrepreneur, she donated $20 million to this university alone. So when you visit the School of Public Health, behind that there was a pharmacy building. She single-handedly donated that $10 million to build a building for the School of Pharmacy. She was one of the founders of Teva Ivex. Mylan is the number 5 American generic companies. My classmate in the School of Pharmacy, before she passed away nearly 10 years ago, she was one of the 5 key decision-making team in that company, serving as the vice president. Watson is not the Watson convenience store we saw in the street. Okay, there's a story. The Watson in Mandarin called Hua Sen, Zhonghua, 生命的生, because this actually was established by Dr. Alan Chow, graduate from the School of Pharmacy, the Taipei Medical University. His mother's name, the name of his mother has a word called Hua. So he called it Hua Sen. Remember, he was born by his mother. His mother's name has a word, character Hua. Has the Chinese name called Hua Sen, then English name to the Watson. Okay? So you can see that in the top 10 global generic company, at least 3 or 4 of them actually has a very significant participant from the scientist or the graduate from this university or from Taiwan. But looking at their sales is much less comparing to the previous slide. That if you want to be listed at the top 12, top 10 pharma, you should have an annual sales of around $20 billion. But for generic, you only have 10% of their sales. Then you could be listed as the top 10 company in the world. And looking at Taiwan, okay, this is not a very updated figures, but we can see from this tablet that in the 20 company in Taiwan, pharma company in Taiwan. Only four of them actually are local company. That YSP, China Chemicals, TTY, and Standard. These companies are a public company on the stock exchange market. And the sales revenue for them, Pfizer in Taiwan, it's at 928 million NT dollars. So Taiwan is not a very big market. Especially under the National Health Insurance Program, the big pharma believe Taiwan is a market that is not good enough, but it's not worse enough to go away. In Mandarin, excuse me, I use the Mandarin, call it 食之无味，弃之可惜. That is the big pharma looking at Taiwan's market. When I'm talking about this project, I want you to understand how influential the pharmaceutical industries are. This is their market value of big pharma, top 5 big pharma company, their market cap versus the country like Mexico, versus country like India, like Sub-Saharan Africa, or the least developed countries. You can see that the market cap of this company are even higher than the whole GDP of Mexico, higher than the whole GDP of India, even higher than all countries together of Sub-Saharan Africa. So if you are dealing with the pharmaceutical industry, especially international pharmaceutical company, believe me, you should be aware of that who you are dealing with. You are dealing a big pharma. It's not on a company because they are investors coming from the pension fund, coming from a lot of the investment companies. So you are not only dealing with a single company. It's a very complicated political, economic complex. Did pharmaceutical industry making a lot of money? Looking at this figure, this is also from the Fortune 500 at the year of 2001. The black bar is the pharma industry. The white bar is the top 500 non-pharma companies. So you can see the profit margin as percent of revenue. Pharma sectors 18.6% versus 4.9%. For profit as percent of exit 7.7% versus 3.9%. Profit as percentage of equity 29%, 15.8%. That means that every profit margin is nearly 2.5 or 3 times of other industry, such like IBM, such like Ford, such like Chrysler, non-pharmaceutical company comparing to pharmaceutical companies. Was that only happened in the year 2001? No. Looking at this figure, you can see that over the past nearly 30 years, the dotted line represent the non-pharmaceutical companies' profit margin in terms of the revenue. The top 500, these dotted lines are non-pharmaceutical companies. These solid lines are pharmaceutical industries. And you can see the discrepancies or the gap between these two segments is growing larger and larger. That makes the pharmaceutical industry has a very serious problem of public image, whether they are making too much money. When they are pushing for those economically less developed countries to respect their patent, ask them to pay as high as price for those drugs in the North America or in the European Union. How could they asking for such because those less developed countries actually represent a very minor portion of their global market. Since the mid-1990s until now, pharmaceutical industry has a severe, very serious public image programs. Then I want to give you some more idea of the pharmaceutical industry or market in Taiwan. Just forget about those figures, just looking at the rate summaries. At this moment, the hospital segment represents nearly 80% of the market. Drugstore and the primary clinics represent somewhere around 20%. This is in contrary to the North America and Europe. In those countries, pharmaceutical market, more than 3/4 of them actually are from the community pharmacies because they have released the prescription from the site of medical visit, and most of the prescription being dispensed at community pharmacy levels. And those hospitals in North America and Europe, they don't maintain such astronomous volumes of outpatient visit every day. The NTU hospitals receive outpatient visit nearly 8,000 per day. For Type A Veteran General Hospitals, we receive nearly 8,000 to 10,000 per day. I kept on wondering why they haven't registered with the Guinness World Record. 金氏世界纪录. They should be registered there. I believe it's a world record. In terms of pharmaceutical market, the foreign companies and imported represent 70% more by value. But in terms of quantity of drug supplies, they are less than 30%. Therefore, the local generic company, they provide more than 70% of drug quantity to the public. So there are 3 points. One is the hospital represent the largest, more than 80%. Second, the imported and multinational company represent more than 70% of the market share in terms of dollar. But in terms of quantity, it is the local generic company who has supplied more than 70% of it. Okay? Under the World Health Organization, they have been advocate that public should be easily access to essential medicines. So, access to essential medicine could be divided in several parts. One is the rational selection, affordable price, the second, and sustainable financing, and the reliable and supply systems. But you have to put them in this way. This is what we call access. If these 4 parts did not fit together well, then there will be problem of access to essential medicines. With the advocacy of WHO since 1977, the population access to essential drugs has been increasing. Now the whole world is reaching 7 billion populations. So at this moment, around half of them are accessible to essential drug list. Based on the statistics that I presented, you will understand that there are 2 major segments in the industry. One is we call the big pharma, multinational companies. The other is the generic company. Generic company in every country, from India, China, Taiwan, Philippines, South America, or even like Nicaragua, or even Costa Rica. Every country has their own generic companies. Versus multinational company is very different. The multinational companies has very aggressive professional marketing. They have huge and continuous investment in research and development. There have been a very highly profitable industry and the political economic complex in the capital market. Production facility and network, intellectual property right protection under the WTO framework. In a large country, even in Taiwan, try to contain the influence of multinational companies. So there are various measures being adopted, such like import control, essential drug list, or incentive for local production and export. Okay? Let me go back to how delicate the drug quality is. I take an example here. I believe the student here understand there is a pills or tablet called oral contraceptives. Understand that? Contraceptives. This is only one of the brand oral contraceptive. The brand name is HUANG. Okay. The active pharmaceutical ingredient from two hormones. One is estradiol, the other is levonorgestrel. You don't have to remember the name, but for each tablet, it contains 0.1 milligram of estradiol and 0.02 levonorgestrel. I make a quick mathematics for you. That means if you have 1 million estradiol, that you can produce 10 tablets, right? Because each tablet contains 0.1 milligram. So in 1 milligram, you can have 10 tablets. But if you have 1 gram of the substances, 1 gram equal to 1,000 milligram, right? Therefore, a gram of estradiol could be sufficient to produce 10,000 tablets. As for the levonorgestrel, each 1 gram could be making 50,000 tablets. How much? Can you realize that how much? 1 gram. How much of that? 1 gram. 1 gram of those substances is even smaller than a teaspoon. Smaller than a teaspoon. Then you have to add other starch, dextrose, we call it excipient, and into machine well mixed to produce 50,000 tablets or even 10,000 tablets. But we know every manufacturing batch will not only have this. So I put that 1 kilogram of substances. How much is 1 kilogram? You just grab with your palm. That probably is 1 kilogram. Okay? And that could be manufactured into 10 million or 50 million tablets. Can you imagine that? It's just like when you put a red ink drop into the swimming pool and you ask them to homogeneously spread out. Every tablet upon the laboratory test will contain 0.1 milligram estradiol plus minus maybe 10% or 5% only. So this is I try to use this example to let you know that how delicate the drug manufacturing is. Let me give you another example. When your family member or your relatives was hospitalized, when you visit them, you see them receiving the large parenteral solutions, injectables. Okay? Theoretically speaking or technically speaking, it should be 100% sterilized. But in science, is there anything 100%? No. 99.9% is generally accepted by the health authorities. In Taiwan, 23 million populations, our society consumes at least 200 million units of large parenteral solutions given by the fact that it's 0.1% of product has a potential of non-sterilized, that means there may be 200,000 product past the quality control approved by the government and distributed on the market. So you know how delicate a drug is. Unfortunately, you know, a bag of large volume parenteral 500 milliliter, the cost is lower than this Coca-Cola. This is a non-sterilized product. And for the injectable to your bloodstream, everything has to be sterilized. Okay? My last introduction to the industry is, it's not only a scientific or technical industry or issue. There are many things have very relevancy to the society and to the economics. There are always argument on whether there's an overuse of medicines, misuse, or whether there's an illegal or hazardous distribution, like trade of heroin, cocaine, amphetamine, or dumping of the counterfeit drugs, diversion of philanthropic drugs. The rich countries, sometimes they donate some drugs to the less advantaged countries, and those products may be diverted back to other countries. What should be the role of the government, the public sectors, the private sector in production or distributions, the manufacture of narcotic drugs, whether there should be a national pharmaceutical companies. In Thailand and in Indonesia, the largest pharma company is the national-owned generic company. But it does not mean that it serves the best purpose to the public, because in that environment, the operation itself may not be efficient, sometimes even could be corrupt. Does the country want to protect their domestic manufacturers and restrict the operation of foreign invested companies? Whether the government should intervene in the price of drugs. The publics are more concerned on the equity, availability, and accessibility. How much investment in research and development should be? A drug approved by the United States actually will not be automatically approved by even in a country like Japan. A drug approved by the Japanese Ministry of Welfare, Labor and Health will not be automatically accepted by the US FDA or Taiwan's FDA. So there has been a discussion regarding on harmonization of regulatory requirement and market approvals. Lastly, under the World Trade Organization, there has trade-related intellectual property right protections, the patent. We understand that WTO, World Trade Organization, actually is the American, US dominated organizations. So a lot of guidelines or policy developed. Actually, the member economy or member country were looking at their own interest first, rather taking the global interest evenly. Okay? I have suggested reading. This is how the Oxfam, a very established, well-respected non-profit organization called Oxfam, they expressed concern even for European Union that they believe that the European Union is making a wrong way, not the right direction, because they believe that the trading away access to medicine, especially to the economically developing or less developed countries. So the following slide actually are the summaries of that report. I will leave that later for our students here. Some of them may want to may want to present or discuss a part of that. I also forwarded a file containing two of the readings. I make a PowerPoint slides available, convenient for your discussion. But bear in mind that those two materials actually were provided by the U.S. Pharma, the American Research-Based Manufacturing Association. U.S. Pharma has been the most influential lobby group, not only in the United States, but in many other countries, because they are rich, very rich organizations, and their purpose is to promote the interest of their industry. The reason why I provide those two readings is because it's try to educate, to communicate with the society how much that pharmaceutical industry has been achieved for the betterment of the public health. Okay, but remember, as the information source is from U.S. Pharma, most of the time they will only talk about the good part of the industry. They will not mention many negative aspects of the industry. So I will make a pause here for my introduction. I hope such introduction will let you understand how complicated and how many different aspects that when we are going to understand the pharmaceutical industry and the global health. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. So Professor Chan is here. Maybe I'll let you, Professor Chan, to say something. It's up to you, up to everyone. Yeah.
So any quick comments or few questions to Mr. Huang?
First we will have a 10 minutes break, and then when we come back, we will break up into the groups and discuss the 3 articles that were given to you on Monday, and then each group will come up later after 30 minutes. You will present the summary and 1 or 2 questions regarding the readings that you were discussing earlier. And then we will have more interaction regarding the summary and the questions that you have. Okay?
Could I? First, I want to apologize for late sending the materials to the teaching assistant, because I have the family event in over past two weeks. I have an elderly passing away, so that getting me forget that I should send the material last week. Let me try to make it easier for you that in the following discussion sections, please looking at my slide presentation on the material that I sent to TA. I believe you saw them. Try to find questions. Try to find questions and raise the question to me. Maybe I can elaborate those parts for your better understanding of the content. That will make easier. I think such a complex issue may not be easily to be digested in 30 minutes, but it's probably better for you to looking over the content and see you really want me to elaborate for you. That will make our proceeding here easier. Okay? Thank you.
Discussion from 5 o'clock. So come back, you the group will have about from now until 5, you have 30 minutes to discuss among yourselves, and we will ask you to send a representative up to do the argument. Okay?
We are expecting you to have a discussion within your group. Regarding the readings that I gave you on Monday. Actually, you will be reading two of them. One has the title of Pharmaceutical Companies and Global Health. That is a summary of 2 readings. Okay? Do you know which article I'm talking about? That one has only chart and graphs, no text. That is the one I ask you to read first. Alright? And the second one is a report published by Oxfam. So please choose one of these two. If you can do both, it will be better. If you do not have time, by 5:10, you will read at least one of them and give a summary. We will have each group come up here and to give a summary of what you have read. And then according to what you have read, raise one or two questions. And we will discuss those questions after you all made your presentation on group
Or we can do
basis.
this.
Is that okay?
Or you do this.
或者就可以让他们上来讲他们的意见。
现在就开始做
啊，这个一样。
好，那刚才的就算了。
就 discuss in this three 了。
哦，OK。
他们见了。
哦。
I discussed with Professor Zhang and also Yi Hui. First, anyone would like to raise some question or comment on my presentation, all the regions we have go over. This is first part. If there's no one coming up podium to share the knowledge with others, then the alternative is we're going to not necessarily expressing your opinion regarding these three questions. Okay? We could go first part. Any questions or any comment on my presentation or on the readings that I forwarded earlier? Yes, please.
I had a question on one of the slides where you said the generic drug market was 47%.
You mean in Taiwan?
No, in the whole world, I think.
No, in the whole world. In the whole world, depends on where.
I just was wondering what was 40% out of what was the rest of the percentage? What was the rest of the percentage?
Did I mention the 40%?
It was 40-something percent. Do you have your PowerPoint? Could you go back to the presentation?
因为这个怎么变大？回到我的。
One of the charts. Here, oh, so we just passed it.
This one?
No. It said something 40-something percent. There. Yes. So it said representing 40% of global.
Those 10 companies.
Okay.
Those 10 companies represent 40% of our global generic market.
Of the entire generic market.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Let me comment on that. In the United States, nearly 60% of the prescriptions were written in generic name. That means most Americans use generic product. 60% of the prescriptions were written in by generic name. But the market share of generic product in terms of dollar is less than 15% of the total market. The volumes are great, more than 60%, but the dollar market share is less than 15%. And that has been pretty common among most of the industrialized countries, from United States to Germany to Great Britain to France. Generic companies represent cheaper but fairly large volume. And this is because the product, new drug under product patent productions, they are in premium pricing, because when they are protected by the patent, they are the only game in town. They can price at whatever price to maximize their investment on research and development. the same situation is in Taiwan, that generic product, as I mentioned, 70% of the volume are by the local generic companies, but they represent only less than 30% of market share in terms of the dollar. Across the OECD countries, so most of the industrial countries, dollar market share by the generic companies from 10 to 20%. That means majority of the market actually have been dominated by the big pharma because they can develop new drugs under patent protections. Under the World Trade Organization regulations, a new drug enjoys 20 years patent protection from the day of the patent application. Usually it will consume 8 to 10 years during research and development. That means upon market approval, market authorization, they could be still have effective patent life of on the average of 10 to 12 years. I would encourage you to either comment or raise questions to me, or even I dropped 3 questions for you. That may be easier for you to express what you believe. Because in the initial period of this class, nearly 75% of our students believe that government should intervene or control drug price. I don't know whether you change your mind after you have heard of my presentation, but the first question is whether there should be a universal drug price for all countries, whether that is a cancer new drugs or a product like aspirin. Okay, this is the first question. And because the core element of the pharmaceutical industry is the patent protections, U.S. Pharma, they estimated that any successful new drug being approved to the market, it costed them at least 8 to 10 years for research and development, with an investment of more than $800 million US. This is U.S. Pharma's data. Okay? So, should patent or intellectual property right protection be universal? This is exactly what WTO has been advocating and promoting. And what are your opinion on drug price that you know in comparison to grocery good? In your country or in your daily experience, do you believe that the drugs you use or you purchase or you pay is too high or too cheap? Any comment or any student want to raise the point to be exchanged or discussed among this class? Okay?
Another question about something else. Here in Taiwan, how many percentage of the drugs sold are actually fake drugs?
Okay.
Fake drugs.
Okay. You mean inferior quality or counterfeit?
Well, counterfeit because I know there's 2 ways. I worked with prosecutor's office before in Panama, and they did it 2 ways. First was counterfeit drugs. They kind of mix it with something else to dilute the drug, and then sell it again. The other one was that they repackaged a drug that was cheaper, a generic drug, with the package of a more expensive drug.
Okay.
And the third one is that they just use something other chemical to fake this drug. This usually happens with Viagra. They just did another pill or whatever, maybe a pill, maybe just like mints or whatever, because it's blue, cut it in the same way as the Viagra, and then they sell it.
Okay, there are several different aspects on your question. The first, the product on the market, are there inferior quality? I mean inferior because every product are subject to the regulatory approvals, and every batch of production has to be released by their quality control unit of the company. Therefore, on the regular channel distributions, I would say the chances are very low that the product you get from the regular channels, like a hospital, like a pharmacy, those are the regular channels, especially under the national health insurance systems. The products are well assured of their quality and efficacy. This is the first part. The second part, that once in a while you may see some peddler on the street, along the street. They are selling some snack pill or whatever. Those are not officially reviewed and approved the product. They may be counterfeit, or they may, even without regulatory approvals, those are illegal product. But it's still there. It's still there. That happens to many countries. Okay. The third part is dealing with there are some products coming from China, especially traditional Chinese medicines. If you are from Panama, I remember several years ago there was an export from China, right?
Yes.
It's a common cold syrup or whatever.
It's not for diabetic people.
Okay.
They poisoned around 200 or 300 people died from that.
Yeah, the reason behind that is it was supposed to, one of the ingredients should be glycerin.
Yeah,
But it was diethylene glycol, right? And diethylene glycol metabolized in our body into oxalic acid. The oxalic acid easily combined with calcium ions become the stone, and that will actually is detrimental to the kidney functions. So we are talking about the same thing, right?
Yeah,
okay. The third part is there may be some product from China because people still believe, especially for traditional Chinese medicine, believe that products from the origin are good. And at this moment, our Department of Health approve any product from China. So if you ever seen a Chinese product labeled from China, actually is smuggled or it's not a legal product. Yeah. So there are three aspects. One is on the regular channel, I believe most of the drug is of good quality and safety. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the question. I believe that Professor Zhang would prefer that student to stand in the podium and raise question or challenge me. It's not only a question and answer to me. So, Yihui, you want to take the slot? Someone will.
May I suggest that we are given like 10 minutes to discussion and form our arguments and positions before we.
On these three questions.
Yes.
I think it's easier one, not to the content of my presentation. Okay, think it over. Just if we have students from many countries, so based on your own experience.
So I'll give you 15 minutes and to discuss among yours, and you have to send some people up to talk about, right? Should we have a universal drug price or universal Coke price, right? And why you agree, why you don't agree? And the second one is intellectual property rights, especially for those people who are interested to becoming a scientist, innovators, and your stance. We want to know. And the last one, how about this drug price relative to other grocery goods? What do you think? Okay. So which group, Mahisha, which group wants to go or the? 要随便点还是随便点？你们那组不是很有意见？好啊，好啊。
So let's check what opinions you have got after the interesting discussion. In the group that I was with in the last 20 minutes, I saw that we have a lot of students very eager to express their opinion. So it ended up that every one of them is going to share their opinions with the rest of the class. So let's welcome this group, please. Please identify first which topic you choose.
We chose to debate on whether there should be a universal drug price for all countries. Okay. So we're against this. We don't think there should be a universal drug price for all countries because
different governments, different countries have different government support, different levels of government support. So, for example, Taiwan has a very solid system of government support. So, like, we are a very solid health system. So people already have to have the support from the government, meaning they have less financial burden on themselves. So because of these different levels of support, people should pay different prices for the same products.
Very poor, and if we made a universal drug price, they may not be able to afford it. But for our country like America, they are more rich, and so the drug price may not be a burden for them. So it's not fair.
And also, like, besides drug prices in other countries, like less developed countries, their clothing or food or groceries, anything like that is a little lower. So why wouldn't drug be? It should be like in the same.
And besides that, every country has a different average of salary, and it wouldn't be fair if they all paid the same price for the drugs.
And also, like the developing countries like Africa, they have the poor environment or poor medical services, and also poor nutrition. So if we have a universal price of drugs, that is not fair to them.
So like Prius, Toyota Prius, the price should be adjusted to the income, or Porsche.
Yeah.
Right? According to
Yes.
Why not?
Yes.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not? Why do you accept it? You still want to earn a lot of money and to buy a Prius.
Because that's not a.
But that's not like a need. It's what you want. There's a difference between need and want. So it's need. Yeah, drug is more like something that if you don't have it, you will die or something. But if you don't have the car, you'll still live. So
somebody say they will die if they cannot drive Prius.
Well, too bad for them.
Okay, next group at which one?
By the way, those who come up later can also follow and pick up the arguments that were presented earlier to make the debate more interesting. Yes, please. What's the topic?
We're gonna talk about the three, right? Yeah. So we're gonna talk about the first two. So. Okay, who wants to present? Oh, come on.
Let's start with number 2, right? So we could think that for like less developed countries, if they actually had there was no restriction for intellectual property, right? They could just manufacture it themselves. But the thing is, they don't actually have the means to manufacture it themselves. So actually, it's only developed countries that can produce these drugs. So therefore, for these drugs, for these developed countries, it makes no difference. Like, it's better if they actually have intellectual property rights, so that these companies like Pfizer or whatever else, they actually have incentives to spend money on R&D to develop these drugs, which they otherwise wouldn't have. So therefore, there should be like a universal, favors the universal property right protection, as it doesn't really apply to countries in countries, less developed countries anyway. And you wanted to add something?
Yeah. So the thing about intellectual property here is that we shouldn't make it permanent. You know, the patent should last for a certain amount of time. Let's say 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. No more than that, because if we don't give them a permanent patent on a drug, it means that they can set the price, and it doesn't actually help innovation. The whole idea about intellectual property is helping innovation, that they actually go and research for new drugs. If not, if we give them the patent, they can just sell that drug and profit from it as long as they want. It should be a balance, not just giving a patent for giving a patent. Thank you.
So about topic number 1, we also think that there shouldn't be a universal drug price for all countries for the same reason the previous group that state, because like the purchasing capacity of every country is different, and usually that those poor countries in the end wouldn't be able to buy the real thing, and they will in the end buy some generic copy drugs from like countries like Thailand or Indonesia that is producing these generic drugs.
No. Like that.
Number 2?
What? Number 3? No, this is number 3.
That's all.
Wait a minute. So you know there's a movement called the Open Code program, right? It's free, then people can develop software.
Oh yeah, open source.
Open source.
Yeah.
So why not we have a recipes and people can make medicine and cheaper?
Because the cost of developing medicine and the cost of writing code are like vastly different.
Oh really?
Yeah.
So
like, you just for writing code, you just need a computer and a like.
So better to study pharmacy rather than double-E or the
it's not the cost of studying, but the cost of developing a drug. Like if you need a drug, you have to like do a lot of R&D, which costs a lot of money. You have to do through like FDA approval, which also costs a lot of money, takes a lot of time. So like if you want to write like an app, you can just like take a computer, write it like in 30 minutes if you're that great, and then you just can put it out there. So there's not much like investment necessary for you besides the computer.
So this is perspective from journalists.
Okay. So
you have a good system, so why not we just copycat and we meet about 95% efficacy. Good enough. Just we don't have a Merck or the.
If you copycat, and those companies, they like, why would, if anybody can steal their ideas, and why would they just develop anything new? Like other people steal it, sell it cheaper, they won't make any money, they will go broke, so they won't have any money to spend on R&D, so no new drugs would like come into the marketplace, which in the end would be bad for everybody.
Any group want to save your teachers because he is debating?
Okay, Professor, can I say something?
Oh, you are against him?
No, I'm actually in favor.
Favor, no. Next group. Okay.
It's important to not have the what is it called? Like, not everyone can produce the same drug if they have the recipe or something, because they don't have the knowledge behind it. If they make a mistake or something, then the people that have like just the drug or whatever will have like health problems. So I think that's important.
Can I answer that question?
Yeah.
So the thing is that we should make, of course, there's not like anyone else can do the drug. That's why there are controls on who can sell drugs to the governments or to the pharmacies and stuff. Even if someone has it recipe, doesn't mean that he can sell it to the government. Even if someone makes it, doesn't mean that he can sell it to anyone else because they don't have the health permits.
It's only black market then.
Yeah, it's only black market.
Okay, next group. That's Anisha. Only one? Get up.
Actually, we just discussed the whole three questions above, but I think we can just make the first and second together. Because we agree that there should be some protection on the intellectual property of those pharmacy industries, because as the previous group said that they cost a lot in the R&D process, and if the government or if the society can't protect the intellectual property, they may have no incentive to keep do the research and produce the new medicines. But because I read some books a few years ago written by economists, and there are examples that because the medicine to cure AIDS are so expensive, and they are just still in the company are still have the intellectual property, so they can't. Other companies can make the genetic medicines now, but the AIDS problem is so severe, so that some governments, such as Brazil or some African governments, they actually allow the companies in their country to just pirate the recipe and do the genetic medicine illegally. Yeah, so that not having a universal drug price may be kind of like a solution, because if they have different prices among countries around the world, and that those poor countries may have the ability to buy those life-saving medicines for their people, and they don't have to do those illegal things, and the protection maybe will still let the companies to have the incentive to do research.
And actually, for the first question, we came up with a kind of solution that we can set a level, like in question 3, we can set a level like the drug price to the grocery price, but there will still be a problem that at some you can set a level for the drug price, like you can buy how many drugs with how many bread or rice. It's according to their purchasing power, but there will still be a problem that you might want to import illegally drugs from other countries.
So how about this medicine which can cure your headache and cosmetic and medical cosmetics? And medicine is the cheapest, is this right?
Yes, I
you
think
you
so.
use a lot of cosmetics, right? And
Yes.
Are you worried about the price?
Maybe not, because you don't need it. Just like she just said, it's need and want different.
Do you believe that a product like Viagra should be made available universal at a very low price versus a drug which can treat life-threatening disease like cancer? So what's your opinion between the product like, Viagra, right? We call it a lifestyle product versus a life-threatening disease like a cancer drugs. Do you believe we should have the same idea in terms of pricing or access to this product across the universe? Please.
I don't think so because I think that that actually does have some institute to determine that whether this
That has some institute to determine that whether this kind of medicine is life-saving kind of drug or that just for like improving your lifestyle, like helping you to lose your weight, losing some weight or something. I think that they need some differentiation about this.
Okay, who should have the responsibility to make the differentiations?
Maybe some trustworthy institutes such as WHO or something. Yeah, and that need more discussion.
Okay, please go ahead. I will give you a final comment based on your argument. I did have certain point that they are international consensus regarding a drug or patent, which I did mention during my presentations. But you are right, their argument in what kind of situation that should be the patent protection should be more flexible or to the need of public health in some specific countries. Yeah. So please go ahead for the.
From this side.
All right. So hello guys. And we are going to talk about the first question. We're going to talk about what universal prices are the idea for selling drugs. And we're going to talk about the drugs in two categories, right? The first one is the supplements. And the second one, the drugs that can cure very deadly disease or deadly symptoms. We call them, well, high-level drugs. Anyways, they have different reasons for us to believe that they should not be using universal prices. All right, here's why. For supplements, we take supplements in Taiwan because we believe somehow we become more beautiful, more handsome by taking supplements or by becoming more healthy. It's not necessary. And second, in rich countries like the States, Canada, or Taiwan, we have very high demand for these kind of supplements because we have the luxury to afford them. Therefore, we have high demand in rich countries. But that means we have higher prices for these supplements. The price is higher. And in poor countries, we have lower demand because the people are dying or they are trying to survive. So they won't actually have the ability to afford these supplements. So the price in these countries are low. It makes sense. But if you are making a universal price, you're using a universal price to like making it the same. In this way, the supplements in rich countries are too cheap, and there will be arbitrage. You know what I mean, right? Okay, so for high-level drugs, they should not be universal either. Why? Because the universal price, we call it UP, universal prices in poor countries are too high for the people to afford them. This is suggested in one of the research articles there. But anyways, they are not affordable to the countries there. So we should lower the prices for these drugs in poor countries so that people there can afford them. That is to say, they should not be using universal prices. My friend over here is going to introduce to you about this incident. Okay.
Oh yeah. But there's a debate on if we lower the price and we'll lower the incentives as well. But we can do some math. Like if the medicine sells on like $500 and maybe it costs $10. Cost of goods sold, and there's and there's maybe in our country there's like 5 buyers. There's only 5 buyers, and it will become like to 5. And if we lower the price, and there's the more buyers, and maybe like 200, and there's like 100 people can afford it, and the income will grow rather than lower. Yeah. And that's it.
Are you still in support? Is a deal? So that means the most populous country like China and India deserve to have a lowest price according to our equation, because N is the largest. You get?
Thank you for the very entertaining presentation. We enjoyed it. Okay, next group, please come. There will be 3 of you, right? Or 4.
Hi, we're group 2. We agree with the universal drug price because for rare extreme cases like cancers or like AIDS, we think it's fair for everybody in different countries to pay the same price, because sometimes in poor countries people couldn't afford. So we think it's more fair to be universal. But under normal circumstances, we think it's not good to have universal drug price, because people in rich countries have higher incomes and they tend to be able to afford more expensive drugs. But people in poor countries they have lower income, so they couldn't afford it. So we think under normal circumstances it's not good.
For question number 2, we think that
Also, we think like for some drugs, we have a universal drug price. It can create savings in a lot of countries. For example, if we like drug plans can have a policy like they pay for the cheapest drug, like in this case generic drugs, and that way, like poor countries can have a lot of savings just because they're buying the cheap drug instead of buying the one that costs double, and it's the same treatment.
For question number 2, I think that we should the patent and intellectual property protection should be universal, because if the protection is not in every country, it may not provide the incentives for the pharmaceutical companies to spend on the R&D expenses. So some countries, if they don't have the patent, they may just take the advantage of the recipes of other countries. So yeah, we think that we should the protection should be universal. That's all.
We have one group left.
The whole group.
We choose to discuss both the first and second topic. First, as for intellectual property right protection, we believe that intellectual property right protection should be universal. if a pharmaceutical company inventing a drug, they should be able to gain a certain percentage from the profit earned from selling drugs worldwide.
However, we believe that there should not be a universal drug price for all countries. Drugs can be considered essential to human life. Therefore, just like food prices, it should be based on the economic position of a country. For example, if drug prices are the same worldwide, the people in Africa will not be able to afford it, which will result in the death of many people, losing the purpose of producing the drug.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
No, just more.
Right, we chose the
Third question, and I think the prices of the drugs and grocery goods cannot be compared because the factors and reasons that affect the prices are fluctuated by different factors. With that, the drug price is more on the supply side. It's depending on the supply of the drugs. But the grocery goods, it's more obtainable. There are many suppliers compared to the drug price, so it's more on the demand side. And for the demand, when demand is high, the prices go down, and demand is low, the prices, So the grocery goods are more on demand side, and for the supply, the drug price depends on.
Our group thinks that because drug is a very specific product, so if a firm owns the patent, so they can control the price of the drug. If they supply a lot, the price of the drug will go up. And because they want to make a profit, so they will keep the price high. Every factory can produce the drug, so the supply go up, so the price goes down.
With that, the drug prices depend on, some countries don't produce type of drugs, so there are, patents and stuff. So we wanted to ask Professor about how much of a difference are there in the drug prices for the producing and non-producing countries? Like how much of a tax burden is there for the importing countries? Is it like huge difference? Yeah, I'm gonna say. Right. Yeah, that's it.
One last group. This is the last group.
We are 5A. Well, we are going to answer the first question. Basically, our group answer of the three questions is no. There should not be a universal price. At first, we think that the answer is trivially no, because we can't find a product that has such a universal price. But our professor provides us an example such like the Microsoft software and the iPhone. But we consider that just as the argument mentioned before, it can be divided as a question of the need and your want. And the drug is tend to the side of the need, not want. So it should be put in the market, the market to decide the price, but not should have a universal price. And so.
For the second question, our group thinks that everyone wants intellectual property should be protected all over the world. Because if we don't protect patent or intellectual property, then nobody
wants to develop new products. And imagine someone costs lots of money, resources, and time to develop a new product, if we don't protect it, it will decrease competition, and we won't have new products to use, and the whole world won't improve. If a universal drug price for all countries is too high for the poor people, so the only way people can have this drug is to make fake drugs by themselves, and this will damage the drug company's patents. And this is why there shouldn't be a universal drug price for all countries.
And we also discussed concerning about if we let the market to decide the price, if there will be a problem that the company will, such as, for example, the drug for cancer, it should be low for those who need to cure the disease such like cancer, we also discussed about the research and development. The research on drugs, it is a characteristic of this kind of our research and development is an important plays an important role in this career. And the market will balance that problem.
Thank you for every participant. Let me make some comment and a summary for this point. First, any of you understand that McDonald's have an index that's called a Mc index? Yeah, you understand that, huh? You understand that. If you don't, just go to Google and looking at what Mc index means. Mc index is developed by The Economist magazine more than 15 years ago. They try to find a specific McDonald's product versus take into the purchase power parity. For example, the basic salary labor at this country is $18,000 NT dollars per month. That means if one of the specific McDonald's product, it costs 60 NT dollars per unit. That means you will be able to buy 300 McDonald's a month for your basic salaries. But with that situation in China, that their average basic salary probably, for example, take the example of that is 2,000 renminbi. And that specific McDonald's product in China cost 15 renminbi. Then that means all a monthly basic salary, it will be able only to buy somewhere around 120 or 130 McDonald's. So which is cheaper? Actually, the McDonald's of that McDonald's is cheaper in Taiwan compared to the same product in China. So you are right that there's no consensus regarding on the universal price. Depends on the nature of the product. Professor Zhang told me that Dr. Zhang Hongren last presentation also mentioned to you there's a very important concept here called willingness to pay and ability to pay. So remember these two terms. Willingness to pay is you are willing to pay certain price. Then the other is called ability to pay. Let's take this example. If there were no pressure on the big pharma for the triple therapy drug we call the cocktail treatment for the HIV/AIDS drugs, around 1998, before that, the drug price per year at that time could be as high as $10,000 in the mid-1995, until the United Nations and all the international NGO pressure that the big pharma should not insist on protecting their intellectual property right, because HIV and AIDS has become a serious public health, even national crisis in certain countries. Like in South Africa, their population of 40 million, there are approximately 10% of them are HIV positive. In a country like Malawi, that HIV positive is even higher. And for those countries, how can they afford to pay the same drug price as the European Union and the United Nations? Therefore, under the international advocacy, it's more and more moving into further domestic production, or even efforts try to accelerate that. Okay. So you can see in the year of 2000 and 2001, the average treatment cost per year has coming down from more than $10,000 coming down to only around $300. This is a very unique example, but by doing this, there is a balance between the intellectual property right protection and the social goal. There's a balance between the public health and also the protection of intellectual property. The concept of that is one of the concepts that is we call authorized generics, authorization by the patent holders. And it's not only happened to the less developing countries. You may learn of the knowledge here. Years ago, in the year 2005 in Taiwan, we are facing the potential danger of the avian flu pandemic. At that time, a patented drug called Tamiflu, in Mandarin called Ke Liu Gan. The Tamiflu is the patented drug by Roche. At that time, Taiwan's Department of Health intend to purchase adequate quantity in preparation for the potential pandemic of avian flu. Based on WHO's recommendations, a government should try to maintain at least 10% of its population's quantity. But at that time, Roche responded that they are in short supply and is so high that they won't consider selling Taiwan. To pay. We have ability to pay, but they say you are not high on our priority of supply. What can you do if you are the Minister of Health? If you are facing a potential pandemic of avian flu, at that time, the government make a decision, year 2005. At that time, it's during the DPP administrations. The government, the Minister Ho, at that time, upon my suggestion, that they gave 2 research projects to local companies. I told them that we need to prepare in time if there will be a pandemic and we couldn't get the supply of necessary drug from company like Roche, we have no other choice but to make it by ourselves. So the government provides 2 research projects, go through the same procedures as Roche, with the objective of establishing our own capability in producing the substances if there will be a pandemic to occur. The interesting part is, after our local research institute and company complete that procedures, and the government asking for our Bureau of Intellectual Property asking for the compulsory licensing of Tamiflu to Taiwan, with the understanding that we will only produce enough for our own use. It will not export or sell to other countries. The Bureau of Intellectual Property did agree that compulsory licensing, asking Roche to compulsory license to Taiwan's Department of Health. Interestingly, at that time, Roche said, well, we have enough supply now. Therefore, the Taiwan's Department of Health was be able to purchase adequate quantity from Roche. So this is a very interesting game. But, so this issue is not only for the less developed country or the developed countries. Countries like Taiwan, even during the 911, the World Trade Tower of that, at that time there was also a threat of the terrorist attack by using some bioweapons. And that time antibiotics ofloxacin, at that time the Canadian government intend to purchase substantial quantity, but Bayer, I believe the patent was by Bayer of German companies, they declined. So Canadian government says, if you will not supply with me at the quantity I want, I have no other choice but asking for compulsory licensing, doing that, okay? So back to the issue, still looking at ability to pay and the willingness to pay. So there has to be a balance between this, okay? How much gross profit margin a pharmaceutical products are? It's very interesting. Do you know how much our electronic company make by assembling a notebook? How much do they make? Let's take the example of iPhone. How much a Taiwanese electronic company make by assemble iPhone for Apple? Anyone get the idea? I mean, yeah, single, $1, $3. How much Apple make? Several $100s. Okay, so the gross profit margin for electronic product like a notebook or like a mobile phone is less than 3 to 5%. Less than 3 or 5%. How much did pharmaceutical company make? The patent drugs, the patent drugs, the cost of production generally is around 10%, no more than 15% of the selling price. Okay? For the generic product, the cost of production is around 40% or 50% of the selling price. And you can understand there are a lot of flexibility in terms of the pricing for the pharmaceutical product. Lastly, the global market, why there's been a dispute that the patent protection should not be applicable to the less developed countries or the developed countries. Because the world market, United States, European Union, and Japan, these three markets represent 85% of the worldwide market share. Taking into China, Taiwan, Korea, India, etc. into that. Why those big pharma has to care about the market less than 5% in Africa, in sub-Sahara, or in those areas where the economic development is a late starters. Okay, so back to the willingness to pay. It is an international consensus that for industrial countries, because they are capable to pay, so in principle they have to respect the patent of those pharmaceutical companies. But for the less developed countries or developing countries, there's an understanding that they can either go through the authorized generics, or even they can go through the WTO's rules for compulsory licensing, that they can make it locally for their own use, but not to the export market to compete with them. Okay, I encourage you to read the Oxfam's report, because those big pharma sometimes they're doing trick, try to contain the accessibility of those drugs by developing countries. One of the examples is those products actually was manufactured by Indian generic companies, shipping to the Africa. When they make a stop at Amsterdam port, the company asked their court to take the injunction to hold those products. They indict them, you are infringement of my patent. Okay, but those products not selling into Dutch, Holland. It's transporting to the African countries where they really need those products. So this is a very complicated issue. I hope that my presentation today only give you try to raise your initial interest in the pharmaceuticals. It's not only an economic industry. Pharmaceutical products are not only an economic good or economic product. It is also a part of social good or social product. The important thing is try to find a balance point between the social goal versus the economic goals. So all your presentation or your comment earlier, I would summarize that depends on whose perspective. When you're looking at this issue, whose perspective you are standing for. We may standing for the public health. We may standing for the interest of the generic industry. Someone may stand for the interest of the research-based big pharma. But it is quite natural in a democratic society that you have a different diversified view or point. The most important part actually is try to working together to find a dedicated balance point for this issue. I believe that should be applicable to any public policy. That will conclude my presentation today. Thank you for all your attention. Thank you.
This semester we have taken you from different pathways to lead you to understand the global health. So we go from the measurement, from diseases, from organization, from the systems, and the last one we take you to the heart of the health care system. It's drug, medicine. So I think Professor Huang has already given us a very rich perspective to view these issues domestically or internationally. And it is indeed a very important issue, as I mentioned in the past last week. 21st century is so-called biopharmaceutical centuries. In the coming 10 or 20 years in your career, you will come into this industry, and you have to have your own perspective, your value system to judge. Then because what you have done and you are not doing could affect a lot of people's life. So with that, and may I invite you to give another round of applause to Professor Wang. Still next week there will be a group of people from Malawi, right, to share with you the experience they have.
You are all welcome to share if you need the PowerPoint slide file. You can take it from Jihui. If you welcome that you can have those PowerPoint of my presentation.